Okay, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll go ahead and open up the Board of Equalization meeting and call it to order. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the rear wall next to the agendas. This time we'll have roll call.
Please vote for roll call. Eight council members are present, Mayor.
Okay, item 1 on the agenda is to hold public hearing, consider exemption requests, and consider complete costs and schedule of assessments for Business Improvement District Number 1. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We had this item on our last agenda. The City Council didn't take any action to modify any of the requested exemptions. I have not received any additional requests or calls from the public regarding this item. This item will be addressed again in the regular agenda. That would be to then finally set the assessments as they're presented. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, any initial questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I will resume the public hearing. Seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. Any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion on this item. Councilman Jensen.
Need a motion on the item or motion to adjourn here? I thought the item was a little further on.
We need to take action on the exemption requests, correct? So we would just take action on the exemption requests.
Move to approve as written.
Okay. Councilman Sukram.
I'll second that.
Okay. Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, I would take a motion to adjourn. Councilman Sukram,
I'll make that motion.
Councilwoman Ganem,
Second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We are adjourned. I'll go ahead and open up the city council regular meeting and call it to order. The time is 7:02. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the rear wall next to the agendas. At this time, we'll have roll call for the city council regular meeting.
Okay. Eight council members are present, Mayor.
Okay. Next on the agenda is mayor's comments. I have a couple of items tonight. First is our city's having an open house tomorrow at Christensen Field from 2 to 7. We'll have all kinds of trucks from the utility side. We'll have police, fire there, and city department heads. And so if you are interested in a job with the city or just want to learn more on what the city offers to our constituents. And we're going to have, again, I think it'll be again from 2 to 7 tomorrow at Christensen Field, and welcome you all out there to our city's open house. I also want to recognize that April 9 through 15 is National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. This week has been set aside to recognize and celebrate the dedication of our 911 dispatchers, and as they tirelessly answer calls and helping citizens and supporting emergency responders. So throughout this week, we honor and thank those behind the scenes telecommunicators who have continued to serve in this demanding profession. So I just want to personally, on behalf of the city, thank our Fremont and Dodge County 911 dispatchers and all the work that they do. That'll conclude my comments. We'll go to item 1, which is a motion to adopt the current agenda for the April 11th, 2023 regular meeting. Councilwoman Ganem.
I move we adopt the current agenda for the April 11th regular meeting.
Councilman Von Baron.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Moving on to public hearings. Item 2 is a public hearing for community development block grant for Fremont farmland and railroad levy.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Angie Olson, Grant Coordinator. This item is in regards to community development block grant funds that were used for the Fremont farmland and railroad levy. The project included extensive tree removal along the levee and also design of an extension to the levee as well as permanent repairs. The items have been completed. The permitting is complete, and next on the agenda for that is finding the funding for the levy extension in the future budget. And I'm here for any questions.
Councilman Von Baron. Any questions for staff? Okay, thank you. I will open the public hearing on this item. Any comments from the public? Okay, seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. Additional comments from council. Okay. Is there a motion in regards to this item? Legal, all I see is public hearing, so I just want to make sure we're. Okay. Okay, all right, so no action on that item. We did the public hearing. We'll move on to item 3, which is a resolution 2023-079 approving application for a Class C liquor license for Gazelle Enterprises LLC doing business as 505 Brewing Company at 349 North Main Street.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item was published in the Fremont Tribune on March 30th. There is a police department report included in the backup. This is an existing liquor license establishment, and so there's not a planning and zoning report in there. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. Additional comments from council on this? And if there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Jensen,
If there's no further comments, I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2023-079.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second that.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. All items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests. In which event, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda by staff or the council? Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, just brief questions and comments on 11, 16, and 17, please.
Okay. Any other items? Okay, Councilman Ellis. Okay. Any items from the public?
Brett Yerger, 2318 East Fifth. I'd like a chance to comment on item 6, please, the minutes.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, could we also have item 20 removed?
okay,
Good evening, Susan Jacobus, 1805 North D Street here in Fremont, Nebraska. I would ask that 8 and 9, 12 and 13 be removed. No opposition, just want some light discussion. Thank you.
okay. There are no other items. I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 4, 5, 7, 10, 15, 18, 19, 21, and 22. Is that right to everybody? Okay, Councilman Von Baron,
So moved.
okay. Councilman Sukram,
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, item 6 is dispense with and approve the March 2023 City Council meeting minutes. Would the constituent that had a question, please come forward? Okay, pass them to legal, please. I'd take a motion for the documents to receive the documents. Councilman Von Baron,
So moved.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-1, Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, I can. Go ahead, sir.
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. I asked that the minutes from the March 28th meeting be pulled off for discussion this evening. I offered these documents for the record just for purposes of an attempt to clarify the record of what was voted on by council at the last meeting. As you recall, it's been a few meetings now that the administration has created an appointments section in the city council's agenda. And I note that during that time frame, the public is not being offered an opportunity to comment. I felt it was kind of unfortunate that that didn't happen at the last meeting. At the 328 meeting, agenda item 4, resolution 2023-078 was motioned by number only and was approved without actually having proper resolution language in the packet material or offered to council before the vote was taken. What you have before you, the bottom 2 of the 3 sheets is the report that was given and the resolution language that was given in your packet material. It was indicated that at that time that was an appointment for Mr. Zetterman to take over the city engineer's position, but the resolution language did not reflect that. It actually reflected the position for the finance director, which had been voted on months before. So you don't have anything in your public record currently with regards to the actual resolution, which was signed by the mayor, which is the top copy of what you have. That document should be in the public record, the one that was signed. And that draft resolution language should have been in the packet material, and that should have been what you had for review. The documentation or the staff report certainly was clear as to the appointment that was to be made before you, and certainly the resolution number was accurate, but the language in the resolution that was attached to and before you that night was not. So I encourage you tonight to correct your minutes, to put the true and correct language for the resolution that was ultimately signed by the mayor the next day into the public record, so you have a complete and full record of what you actually voted on. I know, having served on council before, and I know that I probably took some flack for doing this before, but resolutions are important. It is the document and the language that you were actually voting on. So the premise of what you have before you is that document. And so I urge you to clean up the record to make sure that if we look back at this in some years down the road, we want to look this resolution up. We actually have the resolution language as it was voted on by council. Thank you.
Okay. Comments from the council? Councilman Jensen?
Yes, this was actually an issue that I saw when I was looking through the council. I brought that to your attention and told you this, they just pulled the wrong file is what happened. It was up there. I don't know when the last time Mr. Yerger looked at it was, but I know at least what I saw, it had been corrected. So that's all I had to say about it. We saw this before and knew it was wrong and fixed it.
Okay. Councilman Von Baron?
So just to clarify, is it correct in the public record now?
So the item that is on the city website currently does have a resolution that reflects Mr. Zetterman as the resolution.
So that is the public record now, the corrected resolution.
It's on the city website. So there's the version, the city website keeps versions available. And so the initial version that was published out there that had, I think it was the finance director's name in there, because we had made that appointment recently. That was replaced with Justin Zetterman. And
Thank you.
so the most recent one is updated on the website.
Okay. Okay, any other comments from council? I would take a motion in regards to this item. Councilman Vaughn,
Motion to approve item number 6.
Councilwoman Ganem,
Second.
cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 8 is resolution 2023-080, authorizing staff to apply for a voucher through the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program for the installation of solar lighting at Johnson Park.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Angie Olson, Grant Coordinator. The Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program is designed to assist in energy usage. The Parks and Rec Department has a project for solar lighting at Johnson Park. And under the EECBG program, the city of Fremont is eligible for an amount of $75,940. The grant program works in 2 ways. You can apply for a competitive grant. That is especially useful if you're a municipality that is not part of the program formula award. However, Fremont is a part of that program formula award. And so through the voucher program, the other option in the grant, we can apply for a voucher to receive the $75,940. The voucher guidelines have not yet been released. And so this is coming to you because also a part of this program is a pre-application is due by the end of April. So timing isn't really great if we don't have the guidelines quite yet. So we wanted to get this in front of you so that we can have our pre-application ready to go at that time. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Thank you. Comments from the public?
Susan Jacobus, 1805 North D Street here in Fremont. I strongly support this, and I think it's great that we have somebody who's actively looking for grants. My bone to pick, although minor, is that you are committing funds that aren't budgeted yet. And are you comfortable with it? I don't have an issue with it, and I wouldn't have had an issue with it if I were on the council. But it still needs to at least be lightly discussed at the public level like we are now. And like Angie had clarified everything that goes with this program. They're important. The timelines are very brief. And just like she said, this is something that has a deadline coming up that's imminent. But it needed a little bit of discussion even at the public level, because despite the support that this will get, this is still taxpayer money that you're going to obligate in the tune of $57,000 plus. So you are obligating taxpayer funds, and that's why I had it removed so we could have light discussion. But I do support it, and I'm assuming that most of you do as well. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing no comments, additional comments from council on this. Councilwoman Ganem.
Perhaps Nick could answer this question. Would lighting be part of the planning in the future, whether we apply for a grant or not?
You want to come up and answer that? Yeah.
Good evening, Nick Hansen, Parks and Rec Director. Yes, if if it doesn't happen, if we can't get it funded, then yes, we would take out lights, but we also have it planned in our CIP for down the road, one way or the other. This was just an opportunity to be able to get a grant, and our plan is to put lights out there eventually.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilwoman Ganem,
I move that we authorize staff to apply for a voucher through the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Resolution 2023-080.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second that.
Okay, cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 9 is a resolution 2023-081 authorizing the city staff to sign a contract with Fusion Boiler Works to install boiler tubes in one Cleaver Brooks boiler. Staff report.
Troy Shaven, Assistant Utility General Manager. This is to replace boiler tubes on one of the two Cleaver Brooks boilers we have out at the wastewater treatment plant. The boilers had some leaks, and only one of the two boilers is actually working right now. The tubes are ordered, and this was just for the installation for someone to weld the new tubes back in. We went out for public bid. Fusion Boiler Works came back with the lowest bid. I can answer any questions if anyone has any.
Questions? Thank you, Troy. Comments from the public?
Susan Jacobus, 1805 North D Street, Fremont, Nebraska. And again, the only reason I asked this to be pulled was to have light discussion. Clearly no opposition. This is a needed repair. But again, this is in excess of a $30,000 platform. Bids were adequately received, but again, this is taxpayers' money. And by having this very brief light discussion, taxpayers at least can be aware of it. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing no comments, any additional comments from council? And if there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Vaughn.
Motion to approve.
Councilman Von Baron.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, item 11 is receive local option economic development fund LB 840 quarterly report. So I'll have staff report is. Oh, Angie's gonna go. Okay, all right. We're waiting on our grant coordinator.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council, Angie Olson, Land Administrator. This staff report covers the quarterly report for the local option economic development plan. The plan was established in 1999, and it's been through, well, the history is there in your staff report. The sales tax will expire December 31st, so 2024, and the renewal is expected to be considered at the May 2024 primary. A summary of the economic development awards is attached to your report, as well as a preliminary estimate of the finances in the fund. Currently, with uncommitted funds, we are at a negative $233,000 plus dollars. The fund does grow by around 80 to 90,000 each month. And so within the next 3 or 4 months, that will be growing. I Am a Man, the film. I spoke with him a few weeks ago, and he has some news and update for us. And he reached out last Thursday and asked that we give it a little bit more time and to get this news. So that should be in the future. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, I missed your calls this afternoon. I was put in the call to Angie to ask a couple of questions. First of all, just as a general comment for some of us that are new, I don't know where it is, who has it, or whether it's done, but it would really be helpful to understand the long-term plan for the tech park. There might be one, but at some point I need to get my head around that. The other question that I had, and I have to apologize, I probably brought it up at the last report and I don't remember the answer, but late last fall, we designated about $2.9 million for the tech park, and based on the report, just outward appearances, there's only about 900 and some that appears to be accounted for. So there's a $2 million discrepancy that I'm missing. So I'm just curious as to what's wrong with my math.
So on the committed funds for tech park infrastructure improvements, it sounds like you're looking at that line item.
Correct.
And funds have been spent, totaling just over 1.9 million, have been spent. The resolution was for 2.8 million.
Correct.
So when you reduce what has been spent so far from resolution 2022-172 funds, then you get that remaining committed funds of just over 958,000.
So maybe I'm looking at that wrong, but the action the last item on here was 2.882 million. That was from last fall.
The resolution?
Yeah.
Yes.
2022.
$2,882,000.
So maybe I'm missing it. To me, it looks like we've only accounted for 958,000 of that, according to your report.
Well, all of the funds, so this is like a monthly report basis that accounting provides based on a spreadsheet. So this isn't like a whole picture of the fund and every transaction that happens. This would just be from the month before. And I actually only get these reports when I provide a quarterly report to council, or if I have a Lord or Clark meeting, they will provide one at that time. Does that answer your question?
Well, and I'm not familiar with the accounting nuances here, but it would just be helpful to me, just as a Joe average looking at this. It looks like there's a $2 million discrepancy. It'd be nice if we could maybe accompany this with just a complete overall report of the fund. It would help me get my head around this.
Well, and I think so. I mean, I can tell you that $1,923,692.55 have been spent and paid out to for the tech park infrastructure. That's not all going to appear in this quarterly report. If that answers your question, but when you take that number and you subtract it from 2,882,000, you get that remaining committed funds for tech park.
Okay, and I apologize. Are you talking about the $975,000 that was included from the 2011 resolution as well?
No.
Okay. Okay. We can discuss this at some point, but I'd just like to get my head around it. Thank you.
So one thing you could think about when you're reading this, it says it's a status. It's the status of a particular point in time.
Okay.
So the amount that Angie indicated that has been spent has been subtracted from the assets. The checking account, if you will, has been reduced by the amount that we've already spent. So this is essentially looking at your checkbook and saying, this is what my checkbook looks like. These are all of our bank accounts. And now what are our known committed funds left to spend? What is still outstanding that the city would have to write a check for? And that's where your known committed funds come from.
Okay.
Does that help?
That does. Yeah, I still need to get my head around it, but we can discuss that as a side issue. Thank you.
Okay,
Councilman Jensen.
I just for clarity, I know this, when we committed these funds from the LBA 42 to the tech park, it put us in a negative position. And we knew that, and there was some pain involved in that for almost everybody, more for some than others. Just this is nothing new or nothing unusual. This is where we've been for the last several months. And hopefully, thankfully, we'll be replenishing it back where we need to be.
Yeah, like I mentioned, it grows between 80 and 90,000 each month. So within the next 3 or 4 months, we should get there.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, comments from the public?
Red Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. I was glad to hear some questions that were already asked on the reports and the underlying data. But I had some similar questions of my own, so they might overlap a little bit with some of what was asked. But when the council went ahead and approved the $2.2 million, when we didn't have that much money in the LB 840 fund back in, I think it was October of last year, to Councilman Jensen's statements, there was quite a bit of consternation about whether or not you should be spending beyond your limits and whether or not the LB 840 committee should be constrained to funding projects they can afford to fund. That is, fund what you can, come back if you need more money once we have money. But mortgaging the fund out means that no one has access to LB 840 funds technically when you're operating in the red. That's not a good economic development fund plan, it seems, in my mind. It does come to my mind as well, the amount of funds that we've been spending so far on Tech Park. And if you add up everything in this report in the detail, you're at but roughly $6.6 million that has been spent by the taxpayers of Fremont on 81 lots. That's $81,000 a lot. As you recall, we were selling those lots for 20. Then it went to maybe 25 on a couple of lots, significantly under what the taxpayers of Fremont are funding. And I think it's important for us to keep that in mind, since Councilmember Von Baron said he'd like a little history, he'd like to understand where we're going and what we're spending. I think the taxpayers of Fremont need to know and understand what we're spending relative to the LB 840 money. We're taking our sales tax dollars and spending it all on Tech Park. We could be spending on other kinds of things as well, and we are not. And we had a lot of discussion about that when the $2.2 million was approved. I am also somewhat puzzled, and I would hope that we could get greater clarity on the summary of report. It's been stated several times that $80,000 or $90,000 a month is collected. It would be nice if the summary report that details the balance that's in the fund, the assets and the committed funds and the uncommitted funds and balance actually showed the incoming revenue streams as to whether or not it is 80,000 or 50,000 or 150,000, because we had a good period. I realize these are done quarterly, but showing the cash flow in and the cash flow out, if we actually paid $1.9 million for infrastructure bills that were received on Tech Park, it would be nice to be able to see that. I, like Councilman Von Baron, was under the impression that the $958,307.45 number for resolution 2022-172 should show as $2.2 million. That's what y'all committed. If we actually spent city funds to pay for most of that already, I didn't get that clearly from this report. Maybe you all did as council members. I did not. Didn't sound like Councilmember Von Baron got that point across in his analysis either. So I think there could be improvements made to this report. That's my recommendation, that you include some sort of cash flow in here that shows what you're receiving, what you're expending, and what the balance is. Because if the balance truly is not just a minus 233, it's actually higher than that, then the public and the council needs to know that. When this report was published last, and it's published on a quarterly report, that balance at the time was $592,000 in the negative. And it showed for 2022, 172, an amount of 1,521,000. And then that number was revised upward to $2.2 million when the council finally approved it. So how you get from those numbers in that last report down to these numbers, it would have been nice if there had been some stepping stone analysis presented to you as this is where we were in the November 30th report. This is the transactions that applied between then and now, and here are the balances. That would clear things up for you, I think, as council. It certainly would clear things up for the public to know what's actually transpiring in this fund. It may sound like overkill, but I know that those records exist. And so it would be a matter of putting them on the report in a fashion that's more conducive for the public's digestion. And I think it would make some of the questions that you council members have clearer as well. I encourage you to encourage staff to think about some revisions to this report to do that. Thank you for your time.
Councilman Vaughn.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out for clarity's sake, for anyone who needs to know, known committed funds. What that means is those are funds that we are anticipating on spending, not that have been spent yet. So just that distinction was all I wanted to point out in case it was unclear.
Okay, any other comments? I would take a motion to receive the report. Councilman Jensen,
Motion to receive.
Councilwoman Lathrop,
Second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, item 12 is a resolution 2023-084 authorizing an agreement with Sessions and Sons to install a natural gas hot tap at TBS-1A.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility General Manager. We're seeking authorization to hire Sessions and Sons to put in a hot tap at TBS-1A. In February last year, council approved the construction of this TBS station to upgrade it when we were going to buy some transmission for the winter season with Northern. There was a contribution for the construction of about 1.8 million. Once we got ready to start the project, we looked at the model of the system and determined we could not feed the city through TBS-1 like it was anticipated being done. So we reached out to Northern for a solution. They're going to provide a bypass regulator, but they won't put the tap in to connect to our system. We have to do that ourselves. So Northern bid out this project, and we reached out to their contractor and asked him while he's at the site if he would install this tap so that the regulator could be tied into our system. We'll pay this ourselves with a PO with Sessions.
Okay. Questions for staff? Okay. Councilman Jensen?
I was just going to ask for sure. We talked about this a little before and make sure I understand. We wanted to get this done. The ground was broken. It was already open. So let's get the tap in while things are easier. To do it later would be more expensive. Is that not correct?
Well, no, you can't. You've got to do it. We've got to get the tap in before they start the construction. We've got to have the regulator in. Otherwise, we'll have the issues on our natural gas system, which is a pressure and flow issue, which we do not want to have. So Sessions hasn't started construction yet. They're waiting for this. Once we get this approved, we'll give them the go ahead and then I'll get started on the project. Yep.
Comments from the public?
Susan Jacobus, 1805 North D Street, Fremont. And thank you, Mr. Shanahan, for answering the one question that I had. If this was a single source contractor, but it's common sense to have the contractor on site do it. You're also obligating future funds, but it's very obvious also that you don't really have a choice. I was asked by, I would say, a young lady, because I'm getting close to that age, but someone somewhat older than me that lives north on Laverna, how is this going to impact her rates? There's already a lot of discontent over some of the comments made at a prior meeting. that if somebody needs assistance, all they have to do is ask for it, and the outcry amongst some of that population on the fixed income, they're not about to ask for public assistance. Don't ask them to ask for a handout. They're concerned about their rates. And I was asked, how is this going to affect their rate? Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Okay. Additional comments from council? If there are none, I'd take a motion. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make the motion for resolution 2023-065, excuse me, 085.
084, resolution 2023-084.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Councilman Vaughn. Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Number 13, resolution 2023-085, approving Sourcewell contract, awarding the purchase agreement for a 2023 CB 515 four-wheel drive truck and a crane body to Cornhusker International Trucks, Inc.
Troy Shaven, Assistant Utility General Manager. This is for the purchase of a international truck to replace one that we have right now. It's a really big truck and it's gonna have a crane on the back. We went through Sourcewell, got a Sourcewell discount. One of the good things about going through Sourcewell is when you don't have to do the state bid and you can take into account availability. And so we would get this truck quicker than we would have we gone out to the state bid. I can try to answer any questions anyone has.
Okay. Councilman Sukram, do you have a question?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Any questions? Okay. Comments from the public?
Susan Jacobus, 1805 North D Street. I pulled this off simply because of the amount of money involved and to have this on a consent agenda. I don't disagree that replacing an 18-year-old truck that has a vital purpose for the utilities is needed. However, the only reason why I pulled it off is to have some light discussion on it, and so that anybody listening, the ratepayers understand what that $169,501 is being expended on. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Okay, comments from the council. And if there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Jensen,
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2023-085.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, item 14 is a council member Ellis item, resolution 2023-086, authorizing agreement for street and parking closure for Fremont Spring Fling. I believe this was just taken off for an abstention, so I'd take a motion to approve this item. Councilman Jensen,
Motion to approve.
Councilwoman Ganem,
Second the motion.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0 with one abstention, Mayor.
Item 16 is a motion authorizing special designated license, local recommendation for an outdoor event at Shalimar Gardens at 1682 East 23rd Street.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I did have some conversation with Councilmember Von Baron regarding this item. After that, I reached out to the applicant to try to get some additional information. I'm not sure if the applicant's here tonight or if Councilmember Von Baron was able to speak with the applicant. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, any questions? Councilman Von Baron?
Yeah, just this one and item 17 were based on a fairly lengthy conversation this morning. Item 17 was more of a question, but I'll get to that later. I think just looking at the application, the question came up, number one, since this is a public event that's going to draw quite a bit of attention. Simple question, is there fencing or is there provision here for keeping the access to alcohol for minors. And as I looked at the permits and the request, might be my unfamiliarity, I just couldn't answer the question.
So I looked further into this as well. I did not hear from the applicant. It does say that they will have security personnel present. They are a retail liquor license holder, and on the outdoor area diagram, it says retail liquor license holders are not required to double fence, although measures need to be taken to secure the area. Not speaking on their behalf, I didn't receive a double fence diagram from them, and it's not spelled out in the diagram proposed area. So my assumption would be that they might be relying upon the security personnel to take those steps.
I think the only reason for my question was the completeness of the app. And it's driven by one other thing. I think coming into summer, we're probably going to see a number more of these. We're probably going to see quite a few more. So if there's a time to ask them to fill out a complete app, this would be a good one, I think.
Okay. Any additional questions? Comments from the public?
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. With regards to the no fencing and security, in my reading of this application, it also seemed to me to be deficient in making sure that you were going to protect minor access since you don't have any fencing. And certainly they don't have to have the double fencing that's required here, but I didn't see anything in their application either that indicated how they were going to monitor this. They can have security there, but if you're not wristbanding individuals or making sure that you've distinguished between minors and non-minors, it's going to be pretty tough for any kind of security to actually intervene if you haven't screened the people that are participating. One would think that applications like this that are being served by liquor license owners off premise, that they certainly would have those in the things that we've had downtown that this council has approved in the past. For special designated licenses out in the parking lots and the like, those have been double fenced. They've had security protocols in their applications so that the council knows what they're going to do to protect minor access from these. And recommendation, I think, is appropriate that they should have had this in their application if they want these kinds of things approved. Thank you.
Any other comments? Any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Vaughn.
Motion to approve.
Councilman Von Baron.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 17 is a motion authorizing special designated license, local recommendation for an outdoor event at 1717 Deer Run. Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, this was actually in the same conversation. And this one was driven more by a question of with the Deer Run location. It's at a cul-de-sac, and Deer Run itself is one point entry exit. And so I think it's probably a peripheral question, but there was a question about traffic that I don't know that really applies here. But a couple other questions was just, okay, what are we applying the same security here? And have the neighbors been notified? So I had a chance to talk to Mitch Sawyer this afternoon. There will be no more minors present. The fencing will be there, and they are hiring security. And he was going to, and I think we both agreed that contacting the neighborhood is going to vary with it in a given neighborhood. Some neighborhoods will say no problem. And so he was going to give that some thought and probably contact some of the nearby surrounding neighbors. So it was a good conversation. And again, it's just the same thing. I think we'll be seeing more of these through the summer.
Okay. Comments from the public?
Susan Jacobus, 1805 North D Street, Fremont. This one was an interesting application that was filled out. Don't have an opposition to it, but it's very unclear on where the event's going to be held. This is end zone is on 845 South Broad, but then the address 1737 Frederickson Street is listed on here. And that is Lynn and Heather Krager's address. With Melissa Deers across the street, Shane Weimer's next door to them. It's clearly a residential area. I don't know if that's the place of the event. And then when you go a little bit farther down, you have Mitch's name and his spouse's, and then their address, 1717 Deer Run, but it says the event building name. You have left blank the event street address. So where's the event being held? Is it up north on a more secluded neighborhood of sorts with access to the east and west, with the main run through, I guess, being Frederickson Street? Or is it farther to the south in the Deer Run neighborhood with 5 cul-de-sacs and basically a circle development of 12 properties with only one exit? It's not clear on this application. And I appreciate that there was discussion on fencing, et cetera, but that's also not in the document. This is Nebraska Liquor Control Commission Form 200. And if nothing else, it should have been spelled on what that security is. I just like to know, where is this event going to be held? But I do appreciate that it was brought up to Mr. Sawyer's attention, and that he has stated that publicly that he will fence and have security there. So that's appreciated. My other question is, if this is in Deer Run, a heavily populated residential area, are the neighbors aware of this? But that same question could be begged to be asked on Frederickson Street as well. And I'm sure Mitch can answer that. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, any additional comments from council? Councilman Von Baron?
I should have added that as I talked about this with Mitch, I asked him the questions of the various addresses, because Wiz's End Zone is on South Broad. The address for this event is on Frederickson. That's the contact address for the business, and the event is going to be held in Deer Run. The reason for the Frederickson address is that is where they originally were when they applied for their liquor license the first time, and they've just not changed that. So when you get the explanation behind it, everything is, it does make sense. Everything is put together. So he explained it well. It just, again, it's just a matter of making the forms clear.
Okay, any additional comments from council? If there are none, I'd take a motion. Councilwoman Ganem.
I move that we authorize special designated license for an outdoor event at 1717 Deer Run.
Councilman Von Baron.
I'll second it.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 20 is resolution 2023-090, approving the Sourcewell contract, awarding the purchase agreement for a 2023 CV 515 four-wheel drive truck to Cornhusker International Trucks, Inc.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the reason why we had this item pulled from the agenda is because I made an error when I put the agenda packet together. The supporting documents for item number 21 were included in the packet twice instead of the items for item 20 being included once. And so I would ask that the city council receive those documents into the record. I did provide them to the council via email yesterday during the day. So hopefully you had an opportunity to look those documents over and review them. And
okay, motion to receive. Councilman Jensen.
I will make the motion to receive.
Councilwoman Ganem.
I will second.
Cast your votes.
motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Troy, do you have a report? And go ahead with it.
Troy Shaven, Assistant Utility General Manager. Now, this is very similar to the vehicle that was approved earlier. It's the same truck with the exception that it does not have a bed. It's a flatbed truck without the crane. It's going to be used for using our larger pneumatic equipment. There'll be a couple boxes and probably a compressor and a generator on it to run the jackhammers and then the pneumatic pipe cutters and stuff like that. So I can answer any questions anybody has.
Okay. Is there any questions from council? I think we just needed to pull this to get the documents into the record. So I take a motion to approve. Councilman Jensen.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2023-090.
Councilwoman Ganem.
The motion.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, moving on to new business. Item 23 is resolution 2023-091, authorizing levying of assessments for business improvement district number 1.
Mayor and council, thank you. This would be wrapping up the Business Improvement District number 1 assessment for this year. The city council took action to approve the exemption requests, and this resolution with the assessment schedule reflects those approved exemptions. And so I would ask the city council take action to approve the Business Improvement District resolution. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for staff? Councilman Von Baeren.
Yeah, just one. Are there any changes to this from the previous report that we saw, Troy?
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Any comments from the public on this item? Okay, seeing no comments, if there's any additional comments from council, I take a motion. Councilman Vaughn.
Motion to approve.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 24, resolution 2023-092 to approve and enter into a 3-year interlocal cooperative agreement for a mutual finance organization with other Dodge County Fire Protection Districts, cities, and villages known as the Dodge County Fire Protection Mutual Finance Organization.
Todd Burnt, Fire Chief. At the last, the March 14th city council meeting, I came in front of you guys and talked a little bit about the MFOs. And at that time, I also came to you about approving the 4-cent levy allocation of the overall property tax go towards the fire department. At that time, all the other entities in the MFO were supposed to go back to their governing boards and have them also approve their 4-cent levy. Since that March 14th meeting, we had a couple MFO meetings, and all the other governing boards also approved that 4-cent levy. So the only thing that we need to do now is approve the agreement and have the mayor sign. And with that, we'll probably start the application process to move forward with this funding process.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Burnt? Councilman Jensen?
Just for the purpose of clarity, just so everybody knows, this 4-cent levy isn't a new levy. It's money that's already allocated. It's just, we're just deciding exactly where it's going to go. Is that not correct?
That is correct. There's not going to be any additional. It's the overall property tax request. We're just requesting that 4 cents of that goes toward the fire department.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Chief. Comments from the public? Seeing no comments, any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion on this item. Councilwoman Ganem.
Hearing no other comments, I would move resolution 2023-092 be approved.
Okay, Councilman Sukram.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, item 25, resolution 2023-093, authorizing utility general manager to sign the throughput service agreement with Northern Natural Gas for additional pipeline capacity.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility General Manager. This is similar to the item that we brought a little earlier. However, this one does not require any contribution for construction. This one was an open season where somebody had turned in some capacity. And so what Northern does is they put that capacity out for bid. We bid on the capacity and we were awarded a prorated share based on the amount of natural gas we have in Fremont, or use in Fremont right now. So we're asking that you approve the 884 decatherms of winter and summer capacity. Again, there's no contribution for construction or anything on this. It's just like all other transmission. It's billed at maximum tariff rate.
Questions for staff? Councilman Vaughn.
Just had one. Did we get a good deal?
Yes, we'll take it if we can get it without any kind of capital investment on it. All of the stuff is at tariff rates, so they're in a tariff rate settlement right now, and so we'll see what the actual number comes out, but we didn't have any capital investment in it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any comments from the public? Okay, any additional comments from council? I appreciate Mr. Shanahan and his foresight on this, and as Fremont continues to grow, we're going to need this capacity, so appreciate that. If there's no other comments, I would take a motion. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make the motion on resolution 2023-093.
Councilman Vaughn.
And I would second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 26 is a resolution 2023-083 authorizing staff to apply for assistance from the Transportation Alternatives Program.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council, Angie Olson, Grant Coordinator. This is another grant opportunity for the Transportation Alternatives Program. And staff would like to apply in partnership with the Fever Rail to Trail Foundation for the Fever Rail to Trail project, which has been identified as a priority in the Long Range Transportation Plan. Been working with Public Works Director Justin Zetterman and on this project. The grant does require a match, which would be about $380,000. And because this project is a priority project, he is willing to build that into the budget, the 2024-25 budget to get this project complete. The application is due April 30th. Once we submit the application, we should know whether or not we've received funds sometime in July. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Councilman Jensen.
Just one, we've discussed this before, and I know before there was some angst from property owners, particularly farmers, concerned about people going through there and having trails through there and their crop dusting or spraying chemicals. And has that been addressed, or is this a real concern? I just asking about it.
So I do know Stan Darling is here tonight, and I do know he expressed that those had been a couple of concerns, and that is a part of this grant application is we need to submit those types of concerns too. They'll take that into consideration. I don't have any further information on that, but Stan might.
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Stan Darling. I'm at 1650 North Clarkson. I'm the president of the Fever Rails to Trails Foundation. Yes, there were some concerns about that north of Highway 275. Between there and Nickerson, a couple of landowners, a couple of farmers were concerned about aerial spraying, safety concerns, those kind of things. And, their application processes have to meet guidelines, but in the event of a crop dusting, insecticide type of fungicide type of application, we would simply shut the trail down for that length of time. I think that's kind of common practice in other trail situations for the safety of folks walking or biking. This segment that we're talking about here with Angie is the 2.8 miles from Summer Street
up to 275. So we're talking about a little bit different area there. And to also update you, we have begun cleanup of this same section through town. We've hired a contractor to remove ties, do some grading, those kind of things in anticipation of more funds coming available, either through grants, donations, sponsorships, and those kind of things that we're going to be kicking off here very shortly to build the trail as a rock trail, crushed limestone rock trail. And this grant application, and forgive me for, I almost didn't thank you for even considering this opportunity. It's fantastic. But this would be a cement, it would be a paved path. That's the reason why it's so expensive, because you're going 2.8 miles approximately of 10 feet wide concrete. And so what a great addition it would be to the city trail system. We can link up, the city can link up to this, to the Fever Trail. And I'm very excited about it. But yeah, any other questions?
Councilman Vaughn?
Just a little bit of clarification. You said that most of the concern was north of 275. And so this section we're looking at is south of. And so that kind of,
Right.
that concern is next section out.
Right.
So to speak.
Right. And we have plans of building this whole trail in phases, obviously, as we get money. Two sections that we want to do right away is the Fremont section, this 2.8 we're talking about, and from Hooper over to Highway 77. That's our first phase that we want to get going. And we're going to try to get the whole thing cleaned up, brush taken care of, ties taken out, those kind of things. Some rough grading all the way from Summer Street to Main Street and Hooper. Hopefully we can get that done this year. That'll be a big step for us. And then we can start construction based on what we can raise from donations, adopt a mile from businesses, those kind of issues, adopting bridges. And so that's where our path is going, so to speak. So.
I used to ride those rails to Hooper and miss those days.
Yeah.
The next best alternative, I suppose. Thank you for your work.
You bet. Okay. Thank you.
Any additional comments from the public on this item? Okay. Any additional comments from council? And if there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Vaughn.
Motion to approve.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 27 is to receive utility residential rate comparison for 2023.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility General Manager. There's been some discussion about rates and we've had a lot of comments in customer service and from here. So we decided to look at our rates and compare them to other communities similar to Fremont and in our area. We compared water, sewer, and electricity. Natural gas, we're still looking at trying to figure something out there to get a good comparison. It's a little more difficult when there's a lot of private companies that own the natural gas systems, what they use for their baseline gas rates and those kind of things. But we're still looking at that and I hope to get that to you. But for this study, we looked at what the average residential rate would be based on a typical customer when we did it. So our average customer on water uses about 10.32 CCF of water per month. So we compared 5, 7, and 10 CCF to give you an idea of how it applies. The sewer rate, they use an average of about 5.87 CCF of sewer, and sewer is based on your January, February, March water consumptions. And so we compared the 3, 5, and 7 CCF rates to kind of give you an idea around where our normal customer is. And then as far as electric goes, the average customer uses around 950 some kWh per month. So we just took and used the 1,000 kWh per month for the bill. Electric is done a little bit different. It's billed at a summer rate and a winter rate. And so we have four summer rate months And so what we did was we took the 1,000 kilowatts during the summer and the 1,000 kilowatts during the winter, put together a total composite. And so you can see our rates are a little bit below the average. We're a little bit high on the summer rate and we're a little bit low on the winter rate. So I'll take any questions you might have on it.
Any questions? Councilman Vaughn?
Yeah, Jeff, I was just curious why, like Lincoln, for instance, their summer and winter are practically the same number and others are just way off.
Yeah, well, I don't know how, I can't speak for Lincoln's, but what we look at is in the summer rates, we have to go out and potentially get some extra capacity or buy transmission that covers the energy in case we have something down. So it's a lot more expensive to purchase energy in the summer than it is in the winter.
Thank you.
Councilman Von Baron?
Yeah, Jeff, we talked a little bit about the differences in community comparisons. There are communities here that aren't necessarily our size. I know you answered that for me, but do you want to address that?
Correct, yeah. Some on the electric especially, we did Nebraska Public Power District. They supply electricity to a lot of communities in Nebraska. So from the electric standpoint, we looked at the ones that would be similar to us in a generation standpoint. So Hastings, Grand Island, us, we have generation. Lincoln is a neighboring community. Omaha is a community that we have to compete against. And so we wanted to include those communities in our rates. The water and wastewater, we tried to look at cities similar to our size. Plus, we looked at the communities around us. And I mean, even when you look at some of them, I think if you'd compare Hastings to Grand Island just in water, they're 25 miles apart and they're about $20 difference in price. So that's an interesting comparison.
Okay. Any other questions? Any comments from the public? Okay. Seeing none, any additional comments from council? And if there are none, I would just take a motion to receive the report, the rate comparison. Councilman Jensen?
If there's no further comments, I'll make the motion to receive the report.
Councilwoman Ganem?
I would second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Take a motion to adjourn. Councilman Vaughn?
So moved.
Councilman Jensen?
Second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We are adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.